People often talk about Gemini as if the sign were one single personality. The talker, the thinker, the flirt, the overthinker, the social butterfly, the unpredictable friend, the one who always has a backup plan, even for their backup plans. But the truth is far more intricate than that. If you've ever wondered why some Geminis feel calm and intellectual while others are deeply emotional or wildly rebellious, there's a reason. Gemini has layers. Gemini has stages. Gemini has phases of expression that change depending on the exact day you were born. Because the truth is, not all Geminis are alike. Far from it. Astrology divides every sign into 3 distinct parts known as decans, and each decan colors the personality in a very specific, very powerful way. In Gemini's case, the difference between an early May-born Gemini and a late June-born Gemini can feel like the difference between air and lightning, conversation and poetry, curiosity and revolution. And when you really understand the decan you belong to, you suddenly begin to understand aspects of yourself that never fully made sense before. Your desires, your contradictions, your fears, your strengths, the way you love, the way you think, and the way you move through life. Gemini isn't just the sign of the twins. It's the sign of multiple possibilities, multiple versions of the self, multiple talents waiting to be expressed over the course of a lifetime. And the deeper you go into the decans, the more you realize that these versions are not random. They're shaped by planetary energies that influence how your Gemini traits unfold. Today, we're going to explore something that most astrology channels overlook, or only mention in passing: the 3 types of Geminis and what your birth date reveals about your true personality. Whether you're a Gemini yourself, or you have a Gemini in your life who seems impossible to decode, this video will open your eyes to the deeper layers behind the sign. But before we fully dive into these 3 types, before we uncover the secrets behind each decan and the psychological patterns that shape them, and before we explore how your birth date influences your communication style, relationships, strengths, weaknesses, and even your emotional world. Before we begin, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our weekly astrology deep dives. Your support keeps this channel growing and helps me bring more content that speaks to your soul. Now let's get started. Let's begin with the first decan, Gemini, born between May 21 and May 31, ruled purely by Mercury. This is the Gemini most people imagine when they think of the sign, the archetype of the messenger, the translator between worlds, the thinker who collects ideas like treasures. These individuals are mentally alive. Their minds move quickly, analyzing, connecting, questioning, observing. They're not just curious, they're insatiably curious. Imagine a mind that constantly seeks stimulation, variety, and clarity. That's the first decan. Everything about them begins with thought. They experience life through a mental lens, always looking for patterns, meanings, and explanations. They're the ones who can talk about anything: philosophy, science, emotions, jokes, conspiracy theories, psychology, spirituality, or the most random facts you've ever heard. And they love that. They love learning, they love discovering, they love evolving through information. But beneath that brilliance lies a shadow: boredom. First decan Geminis need novelty. When life becomes predictable or too structured, they start to feel trapped. And when they feel trapped, they detach, withdraw, or drift mentally into a world of ideas where freedom still exists. They don't do this to be difficult. It's simply how they're wired. Their soul thrives on movement. Emotionally, they're not cold, they're guarded. They want love, but they approach it with logic first. They want to understand someone before they open up. They want intellectual compatibility before emotional vulnerability. And when they love with a mind-body connection that feels electric. But they also need space to think, breathe, and explore. This decan gives Gemini its classic charm and wit, but also its reputation for inconsistency. It's not inconsistency, it's evolution. First decan Geminis are always changing internally, even when they look still on the outside. Now we move into the second decan Gemini, born between June 1st and June 10th. These Geminis are ruled by Mercury, yes, but also influenced by Venus through Libra. And this changes everything. The second decan is softer, more emotional, more artistic, more romantic, and more intuitively connected to people. These Geminis are the charmers. They're the ones whose presence feels warm, inviting, and effortlessly magnetic. Their communication style is empathetic. They read people deeply, not through logic, but through emotional intelligence. They pick up on tone, energy, expression. They know when something is wrong even if nothing is said. And because they are influenced by Libra, they crave harmony. They seek balance in their relationships. They want peace, connection, and stability, but in their own Gemini way. These Geminis care more about relationships than the other decans. They want closeness, they want partnership, they want someone who listens, understands, and emotionally supports them. They're affectionate, gentle, and capable of deep emotional loyalty when they find the right person. But their greatest challenge is losing themselves in relationships. They can be people pleasers. They can bury their needs to keep the peace. They can fall into emotional confusion when they care too much and express too little. Their soul lesson is self-expression. True, honest, unfiltered expression, not just what others want them to be. They must learn that saying no doesn't hurt people. It liberates them. Now let's explore the third decan Gemini, born between June 11th and June 20th, influenced by Aquarius through Uranus. If the first decan is the thinker and the second the artist, the third is the visionary, the rebel, the innovator, the disruptor. These Geminis are lightning in human form. They're unpredictable in the most fascinating way. Their mind is eccentric, brilliant, and unconventional. They think differently. They feel differently. They see life from angles no one else notices. Third decan Geminis challenge norms. They challenge society. They challenge themselves. They're always reinventing, evolving, and breaking through internal and external limitations. These Geminis need freedom more than anything. Intellectual freedom, emotional freedom, spiritual freedom. They don't fit into boxes, and they don't tolerate people who try to place them into one. They value authenticity. They value truth. They value independence. But beneath all that independence lies a deeply emotional side, one they hide from most people. This decan feels more intensely than the others. Their emotional world is complex. They experience deep internal shifts that no one sees, and they often protect their vulnerability with humor, detachment, or intellectualization. In love, they want something rare, a connection that's both grounding and liberating. They want someone who sees their soul, respects their freedom, and isn't intimidated by their depth. Their soul lesson is grounding, learning that vulnerability is not imprisonment and emotional intimacy doesn't threaten independence. Now that we've explored each decan individually, let's compare them to truly understand the differences in how they experience the world. The first decan Gemini thinks first, feels second. The second decan Gemini feels first, thinks second. The third decan Gemini transforms first, expresses second. The first decan seeks stimulation. The second seeks harmony. The third seeks freedom. The first decan fears boredom. The second fears rejection. The third fears confinement. The first decan communicates intellectually. The second decan communicates emotionally. The third decan communicates creatively. The first decan falls in love with the mind. The second decan falls in love with the heart. The third decan falls in love with the soul. Each decan brings its own beauty, challenges, and life lessons. First decan Gemini grows when they learn presence. Second decan Gemini grows when they learn boundaries. Third decan Gemini grows when they learn emotional vulnerability. Now let's go deeper. Let's talk about how each decan handles conflict, healing, and spiritual growth. First decan Geminis handle conflict with logic. They want to talk things through, find solutions, and understand the root cause. They're not emotional fighters, they're intellectual debaters, but their challenge is forgetting emotional nuance. They may approach problems too rationally when what's needed is empathy. Healing for this decan requires slowing down, self-reflection, and embracing emotions they often avoid. Their spiritual growth comes from grounding themselves in the present moment and allowing their inner world to speak without interruption or analysis. Second decan Geminis handle conflict emotionally. They want peace, they want reassurance, they want connection, but they may avoid confrontation to keep harmony, even when confrontation is necessary. Their healing requires self-assertion, learning to protect their emotional space, and understanding that conflict doesn't destroy relationships, silence does. Spiritually, they grow when they learn to express their needs boldly and honestly. Their heart is their compass, and they must learn to follow it. Third decan Geminis handle conflict with intensity. They detach, analyze, rebel, or transform, depending on the situation. They can walk away quickly if they feel restricted or misunderstood. Their healing requires grounding, consistency, and emotional integration. Spiritually, they grow when they stop running from vulnerability and allow themselves to be seen fully. Let's talk about friendships and social energies. First, decan Geminis attract friends who intellectually stimulate them. These friendships are built on conversations, ideas, shared curiosity, and humor. Second decan Geminis attract emotionally supportive friends who provide warmth, understanding, and stability. These friendships hold deep bonds and long-lasting affection. Third decan Geminis attract free-spirited, eccentric, or spiritually minded friends, people who challenge society and walk their own path. Career tendencies show clear distinctions as well. First decan Geminis excel in communication-heavy environments: writing, teaching, sales, media, journalism, analysis, and anything requiring mental agility. Second decan Geminis excel in artistic or relationship-based careers: design, social work, fashion, psychology, diplomacy, art, beauty, or creative direction. Third decan Geminis excel in innovation, technology, activism, spirituality, research, futurism, and unconventional fields. Now let's explore how each decan loves, because Gemini loves differently depending on the birth date. First, decan Gemini falls in love with someone's mind. They want intellectual compatibility, curiosity, humor, depth of conversation, and freedom. They fear emotional stagnation and need a partner who grows with them. Second decan Gemini falls in love with warmth. They want affection, attention, romance, emotional safety, and balance. They fear emotional abandonment and need reassurance and reciprocation. Third decan Gemini falls in love with authenticity. They want intensity, truth, depth, individuality, and spiritual connection. They fear losing themselves in a relationship and need a partner who respects their independence. Now let's talk about your shadow, because every sign, every decan has one. First, decan Gemini's shadow is mental chaos, overthinking, aloofness, and emotional distance. They can talk endlessly but struggle to open up emotionally. Second decan Gemini's shadow is people-pleasing, emotional overdependence, and indecision. They can lose themselves in relationships. Third decan Gemini's shadow is detachment, unpredictability, rebellion, and emotional inconsistency. They can push people away unintentionally. But no matter the decan, Gemini carries a beautiful, powerful truth. You are not scattered. You are multifaceted. You are not inconsistent. You are ever evolving. You are not complicated. You are layered. You are not too much. You are expansive. Your birth date doesn't just tell you which decan you belong to. It reveals your soul map. It shows your path, your struggles, your gifts, and the way your mind, heart, and spirit operate. If you've ever felt misunderstood, this is why. If you've ever felt different from other Geminis, this is why. If you've ever felt like you had 2 or 3 selves inside you, this is why. Your decan shapes your evolution. First decan Geminis evolve through knowledge. Second decan Geminis evolve through love. Third decan Geminis evolve through transformation. And now that you understand this, you understand yourself, you understand your depth, your duality, your desires, your fears, your journey. Remember, Gemini is not the sign of inconsistency, it is the sign of infinite potential. And your birth date reveals the version of Gemini you were born to express. Thank you for taking this journey deep into the soul of Gemini. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss content that helps you understand yourself and your relationships on a deeper level. Your support means everything. I'll see you in the next video.